Greetings! Welcome to your March 19th, episode 78 of Three Things with Ian. On today's episode, let's discuss caffeine. Ooh, caffeine, yes. We will discuss the Savannah Bananas. For some of you, that may be the first time you've heard those two words put together. For others, you know what I'm talking about. And lastly, we will talk robotic umpires. Use of technology to aid in the refereeing and of sports. So let's dive in. Anybody that knows me knows that I love my caffeine. I'm one of those individuals that gets all their caffeine through coffee, though. I don't do energy drinks or supplements or caffeinated gums, which we'll discuss, or 5-hour energies. I do French press, 20 ounces. I drink that. If I need more, I will have more. I love coffee. I got on the topic of caffeine because I was reading an article about football players, soccer players, and their relationship with caffeine. So Jamie Vardy, those who know soccer might know him. He's a renowned footballer. His pregame meal was 3 cans of Red Bull and a double espresso, which is a lot of caffeine. I would consider that caffeine heavy. That is more than most people would need in a lifetime, perhaps, for some. But caffeine has had an upside for professional athletes, for non-professional athletes, for human beings for a long, long time. Research has shown that it can reduce pain and fatigue caused by exercise and heightened mental focus. And in terms of footballers, essentially 100% when they did a poll, soccer players, footballers, I use them interchangeably, everyone uses caffeine. I'm sure some like the flavor with coffee, and some I think probably like it as an actual supplement. I didn't realize that the World Anti-Doping Agency, for many, many years actually, up until 2004, actually had caffeine levels that you could be tested at, and if you had too much caffeine in your system, it was considered an illegal substance. Essentially today, caffeine in sports is unlimited. There's no restrictions. They don't test for caffeine. They've moved on to much more devious performance-enhancing drugs. But what I found interesting was, back in the day, it was energy drinks, coffee, tea, liquids. Now caffeine shots and caffeinated gum are in their own business. I mean, there was caffeinated soap for a while. I'm not sure how much that caught on, but how healthy is caffeine, though, when you're doing it at this level? Well, I will tell you, it can improve, like I said, your basic fine motor skills, stamina, endurance. On the flip side, though, too much affects your composure and sleep. You get the jitters. You get this hyper fixation, hyper focused that makes it difficult to kind of turn off your brain. So I do think that caffeine, sports go hand in hand. Caffeine and living, for some of us, go hand in hand. Caffeinated gum is probably just the newest fad. One of the nice things about caffeinated gum, I guess, ostensibly, is you can have it while you are, going about your business, and kind of have that slow drip. It's like that sort of, almost like a caffeine IV in some ways, right? So the manufacturer of the One gum, which apparently they were the first to market the caffeinated gum, they got to you copyright that name. They supplied France's national team. And around 2016, actually, just around the time that they had just lost the European Championship. 2 years later, they won the World Cup. So who knows? Caffeinated gum has a performance advantage because the human body absorbs the caffeine slowly. It releases it more slowly, and it can have a longer effect because it's in your system longer, I guess. Anyway, for some people, caffeine is part of their breakfast staple. They do coffee all day. Some abstain from coffee and caffeine. Some just get their caffeine through Coke and Pepsi products, and Coke and I'll say Coke twice there, through sodas. What is your relationship with caffeine? How much do you consume? I don't need the milligram dosage per se, but I think I have missed my morning coffee maybe once or twice in the last 6 years. So 7 days a week, 365. On leap years, 366. I am a coffee guy. That is where I get my caffeine. The few times I have kind of gone through, I have weaned off it. I have gone through some of those withdrawal symptoms, headache, fatigue, sort of brain fogginess. So at this point, I'm just rolling with the caffeine, guys, until science tells me otherwise. All right, topic number 2, the Savannah Bananas. So this may conjure images of a South Carolinian produce product for some. This is an exhibition barnstorming team. I haven't heard the word barnstorming for a while. Essentially, and they're based in Savannah, Georgia. Not South Carolina, sorry, misspoke there. They were founded in 2016. They are essentially the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. They filled a void that we didn't think we needed. Until recently, they actually competed as a collegiate summer league in the Coastal Plain League, kind of just playing against different college teams and different semi-pro teams. But after the growth of their alternate banana ball format, so whimsical, funny, they have more elaborate costuming. They do, during the pitches, they'll do very unique ways of throwing the ball. There'll be a guy on stilts. Occasionally, they'll light a baseball bat on fire. They'll do different antics. They do synchronized dancing. They have a lot of interesting things. And they really, what I think is interesting is, it kind of reminds me of the Beatles. I know, weird. The Beatles historically just played 10 concerts a week. They just played. They fine-tuned, they honed. They would put on the board what worked, what didn't work. They really honed in, and through the process of repetition, created a product that was ironclad, right? That was time-tested, family-approved. Banana Ball is that thing. So they've run different musical interludes. Like I say, they do synchronized dancing. They just have a very visually pleasing look to them. They have interesting costuming. They have some guys that can do cool bat spinning tricks. They do like the little sleight of hand moves, like in the Harlem Globetrotters, where they'll put the basketball behind you and then kind of move it, and you look down and you don't know, stuff like that. Obviously they play exhibition games now against like the party animals, the firefighters, the Texas tailgaters, similar to your Washington Generals, the teams that are basically comprised of good athletes who are just paid to lose, but do so with grace. So like I said, we got fire breathing, juggling, guys on stilts. They're bringing in, they're huge. They have a world tour. They just played March 15th, 2025. So literally a couple days ago. They sold out a football stadium, Raymond James, where the Buccaneers play football. Almost 70,000 spectators went to a football stadium to watch a baseball game. Interestingly enough, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays have not sold out their home opener game, which is like 28,000 fans. They're big. They sell out all the ballparks. They've gone to Fenway Park. They've gone to Minute Maid Park in Houston, Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. They are playing the biggest on the biggest stage. Progressive Field in Cleveland. These guys are fantastic. I've watched a bunch of clips on them. I'd love to see them. They had over 500,000 total fans in attendance. They're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Selling out a football stadium in a matter of minutes to play exhibition league baseball. No one knows these guys' names. They don't have that kind of recognition, but they put on a great show. And it kind of reminds me of the idea where people always say malls are dead. No, bad malls are dead. Bad retail shopping is dead. We will go to something that fills that void in a demand. We have an appetite for entertainment. We're voracious. So to me, it's a total vibe, and these guys are killing it, and they're just doing things that we hadn't seen before in the baseball field, and we might not see it again. Now, will this usher in football and other sports doing sort of like the Harlem Globetrotters? I don't know. Basketball with the dunks and the movement and the dribbling, it's well attuned to this. I wouldn't have thought baseball would, but they're proving me wrong. Check them out. I would love to hear someone who's been to a show, and it is truly a show. It is a spectacle. It is more Broadway than it is sports. But they're great athletes. They're all most of them are Division I athletes who played minor league baseball. Some at quite high levels, and so maybe they're finally getting their just desserts after all the hard work. All right, my last topic, and we could do an entire episode on the robotic future of pro sports, because everything from Hawkeye and tennis to the replay booth in hockey and football. What I want to focus on more today, though, is the automated referee system that might be coming to baseball. So baseball is one of those sports where you have you have an objectively defined strike zone, and you have many, many people throwing the ball very fast, very close to the edges of the strike zone. You have a catcher trying to frame and trying to get as many different strikes as possible. It's high stakes, it's competitive, and you have a human that's behind another human with a mask, and it's obstructed view sometimes. So I think that the future of robotic umpiring, we moved into baseball, which is also the most symbolically rigid of the pro sports, right? When we see the instant replays in football, when the guy's toe tapping the line and we want to go to the booth for the review for that, they're getting faster, and the cameras are so good that they can hone in. Same thing with Hawkeye, with tennis and pickleball. Those are basically unimpeachable systems that I think we can all agree are helping the sports get fairer, and they're not taking away a ton of time. That was a big consideration early on, was that when you had to go to a booth review, it just slowed everything down, and no one wanted that. So umpires in baseball also have to deal with checked swings. In football, there's pass interference, there's charging in basketball. There's a lot of plays that are very subjective. But I do think that automated systems based on cameras and tools, technology, I think they have a place in all sports. We've seen this in football, where instant replay reviews of all scoring plays and turnovers are gone. They go to booth review to make sure that they're right. And I think that in baseball is the big horizon, because right now we don't have a lot of technology making the calls in baseball. 8,000 games, though, in the minor leagues did use a system that automatically determined whether a ball was a pitch or a strike. It could make its appearance next year, possibly, when the league may test it during spring training. So spring training next year. Computerized officiating is going to happen. I think that it's one of those things where it's just an inevitability. I think leagues that take the time and roll it out and have good communication and transparency are doing it better. I think of the chain gangs who have the 10 yards for football. There's no particular reason, right, why they need to be human based. We could have two poles connected to the 10 yards, and it could be all computerized, right? And then NBA could do for goaltending. They could have a camera determining whether the ball was moving upward or downward when it was blocked. That is the criteria for goaltending. So interestingly enough, I was researching this topic alongside you, and when baseball began its automatic testing in the minor leagues, it introduced two different variations. One determines balls and strikes on every pitch and notifies the umpire, who signals the result. And the second variation, same technology, is called upon only when a pitcher, catcher, or batter challenges an umpire's call. So historically, famously, we have enough data where we can go back and review an umpire, and we can give them a letter grade or say, okay, there's 123 pitches, 119 of them we 100% agree with you, 3 or 4 questionable, and 2 you just missed. It was outside the strike zone, you called it a strike, right? So, is it going to be a system in which people can challenge, or is it going to be for every single ball and strikes? I'm not sure what I think. Players say they prefer the challenge system to the automatic one. I get that. That makes sense. It's less of a leap. It's a little more intuitive. Rob Manfred is the MLB commissioner. He seems to be pretty all in on this stuff. Just 10 years ago, we were complaining about football, and then the one I think that has the most buy-in is probably Hawkeye, which does tennis. So every ball, every time it bounces off the court, it's being photographed and it's being monitored. And then when players challenge an umpire's call, they go to the Hawkeye, they see the slow motion, the crowd holds their breath, and then you hear the applause or the groans, depending on if the player was right in his or her challenge. So umpiring, officiating will be aided by technology going forward. I think it's inevitable. I think good leagues, I think the NFL's done a great job. I'm curious to see how Major League Baseball will do. Humans are fantastic. They're just not as good as the next best thing, right? So maybe hand in hand they can be used together. So those are my things today. We talked about robotic umpiring. We talked about, oh my gosh, I don't even know anymore, coffee and the Savannah Bananas. So let me know what you think. Stay above the line, be good to yourselves, and once again, be kind. Goodbye.